Restoring Illinois to greatness. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute and hosted by AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes on this edition of Illinois Rising. And Pat, here's the Democrats I see doing this General Assembly session. They're not interested in a constitutionally balanced budget. They're not interested in any structural reform of state government. They're interested in a gender-focused, hard-left agenda to try and get suburban women voting based on their gender rather than based on the robustness of the economy and the quality of the civic institutions around them, particularly in the suburbs. That's the whole breastfeeding accommodation bill, mandate in schools, free feminine hygiene products, public funding of abortion that
we just talked about.
That's opposed 2-1. Opposed 2-1 by the Illinois electorate. And then also this legislation by Anna Moeller out of Elgin that would prohibit employers from asking job applicants for prior wage or salary history unless it's already public information or the applicant is moving within the company. Moeller, saying that this would help curb wage discrimination against women by ensuring an employer's salary offer isn't based on an unequal wage.
Yeah, it also would keep the employer from being able to have any understanding of what they should or should not be paying someone and what that person is or is not willing to take. Look, Dan, this is absurd, right? If a private employer wants to hire an employee, they need to know sort of what this employee has done in their career and what the employee has been paid so that they don't overpay for that employee and add additional costs to the structure of their company, to their investors, to their stockholders, to everything else. That's what the employer is required to do. It's their fiduciary duty. And it's an even exchange. If the employee doesn't want to give that salary information, they don't have to. And then the employer can decide whether or not they want to hire them. Or the employee can go try to work for a company that doesn't require that information. But in a free market economy, private businesses and private people should be able to negotiate these things amongst themselves.
Well, and here's what happens and why Republicans and conservatives and anybody who passed an Econ 101 course are not as aggressive as they should be. And this is why the left is able to snow suburban women and get the election to be referendums on issues other than what the election should be referendums on. The premise, if you base a new salary on a previous salary where women weren't making as much as men, you're just perpetuating the inequity, said Melissa Josephs, Director of Equal Opportunity Policy at Women Employed, a women's advocacy organization. So if you don't attack the premise of the left, then you're ultimately going to be driven to their conclusions. And this is why the premise that women make 70, whatever the number is,
77 cents,
72, 73, 77 cents, is absurd. Talked to a dermatologist this week, female-owned dermatology business, doctor, out of Elgin. She's got 180 employees. She just opened her fourth location. 150 of them are women. She doesn't discriminate against women.
No.
And she made the point, if I could just hire women and pay them 77 cents on the dollar of men, then I would, and they do the same job.
They'd have all the jobs.
Right.
They'd have all the jobs, Dan, because your employment costs would go so far down.
Right. And the converse is true too. If I can cut my employment cost, my personnel cost by a fifth by just picking from one gender at the exclusion of the other, then you would see all kinds of companies that only have one gender or the other, whichever gender supposedly does the same job for 20% less. It's absurd.
I'd rather be sexist and broke is basically what they're saying, right? A man would rather be sexist and broke.
I hate my money.
I hate my money.
I hate my money. I hate my business. I want it to go away.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, but we kowtow to this because they repeat it like it is biblical verse, and there's not enough pushback to the premise, and then you get these silly pieces of legislation that, frankly, and I'm stunned by this, Margot McDermott, conservative out of Will County, she supported this. Somebody who worked in corporate law at BP Amoco for 30 years, she said, I think about with very great regret how much more I would have retired with if we had some of the protections that our representative is fighting for here today, talking about Moeller, like essentially suggesting is Margot that
she was underpaid. She was discriminated against. Everything else.
And not asking for her salary history even internally, which this bill doesn't protect, but would have somehow given her more opportunity, or if she could have gone somewhere else that didn't ask her about her salary history, that would have provided more opportunity and more compensation. I think it's a hard case to make out.
Yeah, plus, Dan, salary history is just that. And when they offer you the job, if the number's too low based on your former salary history, just say, no, I want more money or I'm going to go work somewhere else. And then salary history goes right out the window.
Or say, hey, Pat, I'm interested in hiring you, but I want your salary history. You can also say, no.
Right.
I'm not going to give it to you, and then we part company. Okay, I want it. You're not going to give it to me. You don't have to work here. I don't want to work here. All right, on to the next person. The role of state government in that exchange
should have nothing to do with it.
Life is so complicated in Illinois.